And there's hardly anything that we can do to reverse this collapse in that time frame. This collapse of this glacier itself will increase the sea level by about 6 meters. So we are talking about serious consequences. And the idea is that the life and the ecology that we knew in this planet is being slowly disintegrated. So this is a larger ecosystem issue, and ecosystem issues are our issues because without a vibrant ecosystem, we will not survive. So what's the problem that we are trying to solve? The problem that we are trying to solve is the level of carbon dioxide that we are seeing in the planet did not exist for at least 800,000 years before now. And the rate that we are increasing is about 3 to 4 parts per million per year, which is unprecedented in the changes that the Earth has gone through before. And we can see the practical impact of this increasing carbon dioxide concentration in the planet. The 10 warmest years that we have recorded, and we have record of over 150 years, actually happened in the last decade. And the warmest year on record is last year. And you can even see how the global temperature has risen, but in parallel, what has happened to the temperature in Bangladesh. Here's a chart that tells you where we are now. The yellow curve is what represented 2023. Red curve is what represents 2024. Now, last year was an El Nino year, so we expected a temperature surge, but we actually expected the temperature to come down in 2024, but it has not come down. And this is the tropics, and this is what matters to us because we are a tropical country. And a couple of degrees temperature change in a tropical country can be quite devastating both to its people as well as its ecosystem, especially for people if you happen to be in a high humid country like Bangladesh. So I put this slide. This is a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge of San Francisco. I think this is 2022. During the time California was racked with forest fires. Quite a lot of the scientific literature that we still use about the level of impacts that we are seeing is outdated as of last year. Because 2023 and 2024, the kind of impacts we are seeing, climate scientists won't expected this to happen maybe a decade down. And it's increasing, and we are in a stage that if you understand a lot about somewhat about climate science, that you'll be really, really worried. This we know, this is few months back in Bangladesh, where the cyclone Ramal and the floodwaters basically covered quite a large area of land and displacing about 6 million people. The challenge for Bangladesh is quite interesting because I had the fortune of actually taking a helicopter ride over Bangladesh. And what I saw was the separation between the land and water in Bangladesh is very tenuous. It's like a membrane. So the kind of impacts that we are getting from climate change is going to be much more devastating for Bangladesh than a lot of other countries. Sea level rise, of course, is one of the key challenges. Here you can see the historical sea level rise, and I think what is more worrying is the projections, because Bangladesh is a low-lying country. Sea level rise has two specific issues, because the inundation of salt water into the land will make land very difficult for agriculture. It will also create a huge amount of problem when a cyclone comes through, because the storm surge will go further in the country, and it will also increase the time that the flood water will actually recede. So this is a huge, huge risk. Now, what is the challenge with us? Bangladesh has been making very strong progress to come out of poverty, and its journey out of poverty will be so much more difficult with climate, because the money that you would rather spend on development, in education, in improving infrastructure will now go to bring back, pay for damages, rebuild infrastructure as opposed to building new infrastructure. So it kind of traps us in a poverty trap. So 2023 is when we say that it was the first year of climate breakdown, because this is where the temperature spikes happen in an unprecedented level, and you can see some of this. And in 2024, we are just repeating the pattern, even though the temperatures were supposed to come down. France going to 44 degrees. But what's interesting in Australia is Australia going to 41 degrees during the winter. And we saw the same thing in Latin America. We saw the same thing in South Africa. Here's a kind of an interesting picture. The first one is the April heat wave that Bangladesh, India, all the countries around it, Thailand went through, Myanmar, Burma. And the second picture is from Delhi, where the nighttime temperature went into 35. How does this impact our industry? Most factories in our country is not air conditioned. And it's not designed for this type of extreme heat wave. And when the heat wave comes, it's making work difficult. It's making it very difficult for workers to work and produce. The second problem is what happens in the night. When the workers go home, even during the night time, because it doesn't cool, by the time they come back to work next day morning, they are under heat stress. And heat stress is very, very dangerous. It can lead to coma, it can lead to death. But think about the parents who are coming to work, even if we manage to do climate control in our factories. Think about the parents who have to leave their small children in this sweltering heat in their homes. So the kind of climate impact that we are having is a massive social issue, and that's a massive equity issue between the global north and the global south. This is an interesting picture. This picture is from Antarctica. Because the sea ice has melted, because the glacier ice has melted, you have actually plants growing in Antarctica. This you can see how the sea surface temperature has increased. You have coral bleaching. And now you can see how the reds represent actually increase in temperature. And you can see this huge patch across that's really, really bad. And what does it do? It supercharges hurricanes, typhoons, and cyclones. They're the same thing. This is Hurricane Milton, which it's a category. It became a Category 5 and is right now going through Florida. This is Hurricane Helen. It's again a Category 5, went through Florida, North Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, and created wide devastation. What is unique about both of these hurricanes is that the speed of intensification was very high. Within 24 hours, roughly, it moved from a tropical storm to Category 5, the highest category cyclone. What does that do? It's very difficult for us to predict what is going to be the impact. We still haven't had this force hurricane coming to Bay of Bengal and to Bangladesh, but this is the type of impact that we need to plan for. And on the Latin American side, you want to look at Amazon forest, the largest forest system that we have in the world. This is the state now. It's burning because of forest fire, prolonged drought, and heat that comes out of climate change. And it's going to create mass displacement. It's already happening, and in countries like Bangladesh, it's going to be very, very challenging for any government to manage climate-induced mass displacement that's happening. Think about Florida. Even a rich country like Florida, after these hurricanes that went through Florida, it will be very, very difficult for any homeowner. Forget about affording home insurance. There will not be insurers in the next couple of years in Florida to insure homes. So that's the kind of destruction that creates climate refugees, and it's not only a developing country problem, it's a global problem. Let's talk about Bangladesh. I think this is the two challenges I think we have, and I'm glad that the advisor spoke about renewable energy transition. The International Energy Agency projects that Bangladesh will have only 5% of renewable electricity by 2030. There is a huge transition that is required, and with the current economic challenges, unless there is very specific support that comes in, it's not practical. So it's one thing to ask Bangladesh to say, change, 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 but that's not how it has to work. It has to work as a collaborative, co-creative model between nations and companies. So there are 3 priorities I list for the fashion industry, RMG industries in Bangladesh. First is rapid decarbonization. This is necessary. It's necessary for everybody, not just for Bangladesh. But how do we do this? I think most of us talk about it. We need equitable and workable targets, not lazy targets that are distributed evenly to everybody. That's not how decarbonization works. And we need to decouple who pays versus who does what. And the reason is that if you expect only the manufacturers to do this work and fund and take risks, that's not going to happen. But the next important part is how do we build climate resiliency and have better working conditions for workers, as well as adaptation for the communities. We spoke about CSDDD. I'm just putting it out. CSDDD specifically speaks about brands to look at their purchasing practices and prices to support transition in their value chain. So it's not even EU has envisaged this happening. But the other part that is very disappointing in the climate conversations that's happening in the fashion industry, what is actually missing is adaptation. How do we adapt to heat waves? And what is the implications of that? We speak about collective action. Collective action is sharing resources. Collective action is not some partner saying to the other partner, this is what you need to do. It is sharing resources both on financial and technical, and it is also sharing risk so that we go in this journey together. So my invitation to all our brand partners here, we need a different relationship to move forward. Final recommendations on policy side. There are easy wins for the government of Bangladesh. Reduce duty for energy efficiency equipment. Give accelerated capital allowances for energy investments. Enable net metering for BEPSA. And then the transition to renewable energy. For manufacturers and industry, develop company-specific targets and action plans and actually deliver them and create industry-wide programs and funding. This is something that BGMEA, for example, can take leadership. And for brands and retailers, very important, work with supply chain partners. Don't tell us, hit this target. Work with us together, co-create programs. And most importantly, please revisit your business models, because our business models were never designed to deliver sustainability. They were designed to deliver speed and cost. A business model that's designed for speed and cost cannot deliver sustainability. And the final one, please remember, this industry will never decarbonize if debt is the only financial instrument that's in place. And we will be discussing this in the funding panel in the evening. Where we go from here is up to us. Thank you very much.